what we'll talk about is the way that in your own home and in your own family and in wherever it is that you consume food, that you begin to be smart about the plastics that you use, that you begin to eliminate plastic packaging from your habit. What George wants to emphasize is that not only can we begin to eliminate plastics from our food consumption habits, but we can begin to make things ourselves that serve the function of being food containers, that can go shopping with things that we make out of natural materials. We can wrap things in natural materials. People are making wrappers for food out of cloth and beeswax. It works very well to cover foods instead of plastic wrappers.
How long does it take for plastic to be degraded in the soil?
In terms of the most common plastic, polyethylene, experiments have shown that in topsoil, it degrades at about 2% per year. So it's a very small amount. It takes many years for it to go away. It's not that plastic is completely not biodegradable. It's that it takes a long, long time for it to biodegrade. And in active soil, maybe as much as 2% per year could biodegrade.
Okay, Botswana School, Delta Water, if you have a question, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Can't as we the world organize ban the use of plastics like Rwanda has done in Africa?
Yeah, what we need to take all the good examples from around the world, like Rwanda, like European Union, like some of the South American countries, like Chile has banned plastic bags. Every good example of plastic smart behavior. We want to think in terms of being plastic smart. We know we're not going to eliminate plastic. We want to be plastic smart. So what we're doing now today with all you from around the world is we're being plastic smart together. We're gathering ideas. We're gathering smart ways to deal with our future so that we can eliminate the problems we're experiencing today. So yes, what we need is an international, intelligent response to the plastic crisis, and it can happen by gathering all the working policies. Everything that's working well needs to be combined into an international policy. This is one problem that will not be solved in a single country. It will only be solved internationally. International solutions are only solutions to global climate change, and they're the only solutions to plastic pollution. We have to combine those two movements together in order to get enough political strength and force to make these changes. So yes, let's do it with plastic, and let's unite ourselves with the climate, the carbon neutral policies of the climate movement. We need to have the plastic neutral policies of the plastic movement, and we can only get those by what you suggest, getting the best international ideas from around the world and enforcing them worldwide.
If we do that, how great effect will that have on the entire world?
We won't be able to clean the plastics out of the ocean. Even if we stop putting plastic in, the ocean herself will have to clean herself up. She will do it, but it will take a long time. But what we have to do in order to hope that things will get better is to stop polluting. So we certainly see the effect immediately when we stopped having plastic bags. When we banned the plastic bags, we stopped seeing bags on the beaches. We stopped seeing so many bags in the roadways, flying around. They were flying around the highways. We saw them in the trees. I mean, South Africa's national flower was the plastic bag for many years. We saw so many plastic bags in the trees in South Africa. So we do see immediate results when we take action. And of course, those add to our feeling of satisfaction that all this work has paid off, it's meaningful, we're seeing the results. But in the ocean, we won't see the results right away because it's mixed in and it's so vast, it'll take a long time. But it will never clear itself up if we keep adding more in.
Joseph has a question. Joseph Sajuba, go ahead.
Apparently, part of the question has been answered. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. I wanted to talk about the issue of banning the plastics completely in the world, but it has been addressed.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Any other questions from other audiences? Okay. There is a question from one of the participants. Can you tell us a little bit about bioplastics and what are their limitations?
Yeah, that's a good question because there's a lot of confusion about plastics made from natural materials. Many companies are making the false and misleading claim that if they make their plastic from natural materials like sugar cane or soybeans or rice, that it's going to be less harmful. There's no reason why it would be less harmful if they're making the same type of plastic out of these natural materials. You can make polyethylene out of sugar cane. All the industry cares about is the price of the carbon. Right now, the cheapest form of carbon for the industry is petroleum. But if sugar and soybeans or corn or rice becomes a cheaper form of carbon, or some kind of grass, some weeds, whatever organic material is used to make plastic, doesn't mean that that plastic will disappear in the environment. Only plastics that will disappear in the environment are plastics that are engineered to disappear in the environment, that are already made to be biodegradable. So if you see a plastic labeled made from plants and a big green symbol around it, you have to understand that that probably is no better than the plastic that's made from petroleum. It's only better if it's biodegradable. And there are standards for biodegradability. There are standards for marine degradability. And unless they list the fact that they are degradable based on those standards on the package, it's a lie, it's misleading, and it's greenwashing.
Thank you, Captain. Are there any other questions?
Because plastic is...
Can you speak into the mic?
Because plastic is degradable, does it affect the taste of our agricultural produce?
Sorry, I couldn't hear. Will you repeat?
Because plastic is degradable, does it affect the taste of our agricultural produce?
I think the question had to do with the effects of degrading plastic on agriculture.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. There are two kinds of degradation. There's photodegradation and biodegradation. With photodegradation, you're only breaking it into smaller and smaller particles. it's not going away. With biodegradation, it's actually going away. So until we have plastics that are biodegradable, they're going to be building up in the soil. There's going to be more and more of them in agriculture. They're going to be affecting the crop. Now, let's say that it's a crop that uses a pesticide or an herbicide to kill some unwanted plant or animal. That sticks to the plastic. So the plastic is a sponge for chemicals. It sucks up chemicals. We talked about the chemicals that come out of the plastic, but we didn't talk about the chemicals that stick to the plastic. Plastic is very good at absorbing oily chemicals, and many of the herbicides, many of the pesticides that are used in agriculture are oily. They want them to stick to the plant, not get washed off by the rain. So they make them oily. Those will stick to the plastic. They will persist in the soil longer maybe than they would have otherwise. And so it's really not a good thing for agriculture to have a dead, sick soil permeated by broken down bits of plastic that hold all the bad chemicals and don't release them. So we really need to think about switching from photodegradable, non-biodegradable plastics to truly biodegradable plastics in agriculture.
Thank you, Captain. Okay, there is a question from one of the students. Go ahead.
Currently, we use plastic for preserving most of the foods and packaging them. If we were to ban the single-use plastic, what would we use to help preserve the food and help it to last for a longer period of time?
We want local production and local consumption. We don't want to have food last for a long period of time. We want it, for instance, the normal way people used to shop was every day for their food and consume it that day. But refrigeration works, freezing works. You can use jars to preserve things that I just made before I came on the air tonight. I made a jar of dill pickles. I grew the cucumbers. I grew the dill. I put the cucumbers and the dill in a jar and poured a hot solution of vinegar and water and salt over the cucumbers. And that preserves in the refrigerator. So we have modern conveniences that allow us to preserve food for long periods of time. We have refrigeration, we have freezing, we have jars with lids on them. We have metal containers that people use to carry their lunch in, bring to school. And so there are many different ways to preserve food without having to wrap it in plastic. And I mentioned the beeswax wrappers. Those are very good for covering jars of food, keeping the air out. You just get some wax from the bees, melt it into a cotton fabric, and that will then, when you put your hands on it and wrap it around the bowl, it kind of softens the wax and makes it take the form of the bowl, and it can actually be waterproof and preserve the food very well instead of using plastic.
Are there any other questions from any participants? Okay, there was a question that is, are the building blocks created by companies like Biofusion being used anywhere right now? And they would like to understand if there is any adoption of that.
Yeah, actually I helped build a lifeguard shack on Manhattan Beach with Biofusion blocks. And I believe it's still, I think they moved it, but there are buildings being made with those blocks. You also have seen buildings made with bottles. People have taken the bottles, stuffed them with sand or with other plastics, and built around those. These are not ideal solutions, that they're better than burning or burying. So creative building solutions are a good interim strategy for dealing with plastic pollution. And there's this Bifusion company got its patent from New Zealand. The company started in New Zealand. So there is a company in the Asia Pacific region that has this technology, and I'm hoping that they can license it to other countries to use in their struggle with plastic pollution.
Thank you, Captain. Which countries are on the forefront of managing their plastic well, or rather its recycling well? And what are some of the things that we can learn from them?
One of the countries that's doing very well is in Europe. We have Sweden, Denmark. Those companies are doing very well taking back the plastic and reusing it. Amsterdam in the Netherlands is doing a pretty good job. But one of the dirty little secrets of they're doing a good job is they still have to burn a lot of the plastic. And our goal is to not burn it and not bury it, but to have it all come back into the industrial cycle to make a circular economy out of it. And burning is not part of a circular economy. So even the countries that we look up to that are doing a good job, for instance, European Union has agreed to ban single-use plastics in the near future. And that is important. That's a very big part of the solution. But we can't continue to just burn things that have no afterlife, that don't have another reincarnation. Everything needs to be reincarnated to become part of either an agricultural cycle or an industrial cycle in a new circular economy that mimics the natural economy of nature, which, as I said, you don't go into the jungle to fertilize the trees. They do fine without anybody's help. You don't go into the forest to add fertilizer to the forest floor so that the trees can grow taller. Nature handles that very well all by herself because she runs a circular economy with no waste. One of the principles of ecology is that everything is used in ecological systems. Nothing is wasted. Only humans make waste. We've got to stop.
So we have taken our 1 hour and 15 minutes. That was the limit that we wanted for the program. I really appreciate, Captain, for giving your time. I will try to send the video so that the schools can actually show it to the students. I'm sorry about the bad network connections that had. Okay. I really appreciate, Captain. I know that you would definitely be taking your medical leave. I wish you all the best. Thank you for giving this time. It was really wonderful. And in fact, everybody has shared that it was a great session. In fact, it was very, very informative. I also appreciate all the support staff that were there to help us out. And if there is anything else that we would need, we can definitely try to have more sessions over a period of time. Is there anything else, Captain, that you would like to add before we say goodnight?
This is truly an international effort. I thank George for organizing it. He's at the forefront of bringing nations that are very different from one another together. And that's truly what has to be done. So I fully support George's efforts to bring many nations that are very different from one another into focus on the same problem. And we have to do that now as a world to preserve our natural resources and our way of life. So it's never more important than now. So thank you all for participating, and thank you, George, for organizing. My pleasure. Thanks, and wish you all the best. And to everybody, have a wonderful day ahead. And good night, Captain. Okay, good night. I'm just reading the comments. It's nice to see. All right. Good night, George. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody.